Today we're going to pull back the curtain on a true legend of entertainment, the amazing Kreskin. For decades, this guy has been a household name. He's a master mentalist whose life is just this incredible mix of unbelievable stories, some pretty fierce debate, and honestly, some surprisingly deep wisdom. So let's get into it.
But here's the thing that really grabs you. What if the one guy who's famous for, seemingly getting inside people's heads tells you that the whole idea is a myth, that nobody can actually control your mind? It's this wild contradiction, and it's right at the heart of who he is.
So what we're going to do here is look at Kreskin's own words to see how he pretty much dismantles his own industry's biggest claim. And in doing that, he points to what he believes is the real power, one that we all have.
But first, before we get into the philosophy, you got to understand the sheer scale of his career. I mean, the numbers alone tell you just how much of a cultural force this man was.
Think about this for a second. 88 times he appeared on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. 88 times. Back in the golden age of TV, getting invited back like that was the ultimate seal of approval. It meant you weren't just another guest. You were an absolute event.
And the man was always on the move. At one point, the airline industry actually did the math and figured out he had flown over 3.5 million miles. That's not just a career, that is a relentless globe-trotting pace. He was literally everywhere.
Okay, so now let's get into the big one. This is his most controversial belief, the idea that really defines his whole philosophy and sets him apart from pretty much everyone else in his line of work.
And it all comes down to this one simple but huge question. Is hypnosis actually real? It's the bedrock of mentalism, right? But Kreskin's answer? Well, it's not at all what you'd expect.
And there it is. In his own words, a flat-out rejection of the central idea of his craft. He's saying there is no special trance, no altered state of mind. So, if it's not hypnosis, then what in the world is happening?
For Kreskin, it was all about the incredible power of suggestion. He insisted that the person is always wide awake, totally conscious. The performer is just an expert at guiding their focus. That's a universe away from the classic hypnotic trance, which suggests a loss of control that Kreskin was adamant was just impossible.
And he wasn't just talking a big game. This belief was so radical that it actually landed him in court. A group of hypnotists sued him over it. But get this, the judge threw the case out, basically saying Kreskin had proven he could do everything they could do without ever needing to put someone in a so-called trance.
All right, so beyond all the theory and debate, Kreskin's life was, as he put it, an adventure. And the stories from his decades on the road, well, they are the stuff of legend. Here's a perfect example of his random cultural impact. He's on an early TV show, right? The studio lights are super bright, they blind him, and he just completely trips and falls flat on his face. Well, who happens to be watching TV at that night? Johnny Carson. A few weeks later, Carson's legendary character, Karnak the Magnificent, starts doing this running gag where he trips over his desk. Kreskin's little accident literally became a piece of television history.
Now, his most famous act involves his own paycheck. Before every big evening show, he has a committee from the audience take his entire performance fee and hide it somewhere, anywhere in the venue. If he doesn't find it by the end of the night, he doesn't get paid.
And the places they'd hide it were just wild. One night, he's in this huge university gym, packed with people. He's trying to find his check, and he just keeps getting drawn to this one guy in the audience. He even walks away at one point, but something pulls him back. He asks the guy about the roof of his mouth, and the man reaches in, removes his entire upper dental plate, and yep, right there underneath it was Kreskin's check. You can't make this stuff up.
But, not everything in his life could be chalked up to suggestion or just great showmanship. There was one event in particular that stands out, something that even he couldn't fully explain. Now, it's really important to get this straight. Kreskin never, ever claimed to be psychic. He always described his ability as an intuitive gift of high sensitivity. Basically, a heightened feeling for things, a perception that was just beyond the norm. And one day, that sensitivity was put to the ultimate test. So one morning, he does something he never does. He oversleeps. He's rushing to the airport, takes a shortcut to try and make up time, and gets lost. He finally runs up to the gate just in time to see the plane pulling away from the jet bridge. It was the only flight he had ever missed in his entire career. Later that night, the police show up at his door with his luggage. The plane had crashed, and there were no survivors.
So after a lifetime of reading audiences, of sensing things that other people just don't, what's the big secret?
What's the ultimate lesson he learned? Well, the answer is both incredibly simple and incredibly profound. His core advice, his real secret, is this: just listen. I mean, really listen to your audience, to the people you meet, and then, after every single experience, you have to take the time to sit down and actually reflect on it. He was convinced this is a lost art, but that it's the real key to understanding anything.
And he had a bit of a warning for us. He really felt that our modern tools, especially our cell phones, have gotten in the way of our ability to do that. You know? We get instant answers, but we don't reflect. We're constantly communicating, but we don't really listen or connect.
Which brings us to his iconic way of signing off. It was never a final goodbye. It was an invitation, a reminder that maybe the most amazing thing any of us can do is just keep those lines of communication open, to keep listening and to keep learning from each other. So, in that spirit, let's continue the conversation.